All right. John, I'm lucky to have you as a friend. It's been wonderful. So they were talking about who we were going to have speak for June, and I've been sitting in the stands watching everybody speak for years and years and years, and I said, well, I could come up with something to talk about. So I volunteered to talk, and man, was that a bad idea. Because the amount of work it takes to prepare a speech that, you know, hopefully is entertaining and educational and doesn't bore you to death, it's a lot of work. So I hope that today's speech is entertaining, it's educational, that you take some value away from it, and I appreciate the opportunity to do it. It's good stuff. So we may run into some technical difficulties along the way. You almost always do, right? Or some things might not go without a hitch, but this talk today that I'm going to be discussing is titled The Land of Oz, and it'll become clear as to why I title it that. But as John said, that's where I'm from. You can see my house right there in the center. Right? Actually, that's a photo that my wife and I took on the way to my parents' cabin up in the Alaska Range. And we were driving past, the road runs right along there, and I was driving past there, and I was just absolutely astounded by how beautiful it was. The picture doesn't quite do it justice, but this range right there, that's up there, these mountains, that's the Rainbow Mountains, and in the summertime, the sun hits those, and it just lights up like a rainbow. It's absolutely breathtaking. Alaska, who's all been to Alaska? Anybody been to Alaska? You people have been to Alaska, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, fantastic place to visit. If anybody says go live there, don't. It's cold, okay? When it's 50 below, you can take a cup of hot boiling water, throw it in the air, and half of it will evaporate in a cloud of steam, and the other half will crackle and snap because it's freezing before it actually hits the ground. It's pretty wild. So it's cold. But great place to grow up as a kid, and that's home. They used to be home. Now Las Vegas home. Been here for 13 years. So as you mentioned, this is my family. My father-in-law, who's sitting down here, Mr. David DeHaan, he's wondering where the heck are the kids. But these are our kids for now, right? Sophie and Samson, the black Samson, and then Sophie. And then we've got Oscar and Sasha. And Sasha's, wearing her normal tutu there in outfit. It's amazing how much hair these guys produce. Like, oh my God, if anybody told me that I was, bringing home a fur factory, I probably wouldn't have done this. I mean, it's amazing. So anybody who drives in my car, you get covered in hair. I'm usually covered in hair at some point, so it's thanks to these wonderful creatures. If you're from Alaska, you play hockey. I still play hockey, very much involved with hockey. I absolutely love playing hockey. I'm really not that interested in watching hockey. Who's watching the Stanley Cup playoffs? Last game tonight, Game 7. That'll be a good game to watch. I will watch that game. But normally I don't watch too much of that. I like playing it. I play 3 times a week. And I've been involved with ice hockey. The Las Vegas Junior Wranglers is a 5 to 18-year-old organization here in town. 5 to 18-year-old kids, volunteer organization. When I started with them, we had 12 kids on my team. That was it. And now we're over 150 kids. And the Wranglers, the professional team here in town, just sponsored us this last year. So we went from the Las Vegas Ice Cats to the Las Vegas Junior Wranglers. And they advertise us at games. It's really cool. And so we're trying to grow youth hockey here in town. It's pretty exciting. So the other thing you mentioned is that I own a film production company. It's fledgling, it's been in existence for a couple of years. We've done some stuff here and there. If anybody clicked on the trailer that we created for this talk here, you might have seen some of the work that we've done. It's a blast, it's a lot of fun, it's a passion, and who knows where it'll go. But I do have a degree in finance, and I've been doing that for the last 10 years, selling insurance and investments. And I said, I got this degree in theory here, but I don't use it. So that was my effort to start using it, and we have a heck of a lot of fun with it all. So today's talk, I know you're all wondering, what does he mean by the wizard or the Land of Oz? What's all that going to be about? Oh, before I get there, last thing. Most of you know me as the president of NAIFA here. I've been the president for the last 2 years. Thank you very much. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Prior to that, I was president-elect for 2 years, and prior to that, I was vice president for a little bit of time, and then I was the chairman of the Young Advisors team. And I tell you what, if you're a member now and you're sitting there going, yeah, I don't know if I want to get involved and step up and join a committee or anything else like that, throw that thought out, because we need you. This organization, as I said, the only reason it works is because everybody gives their time for free, right? You get all these people that make the phone calls and organize the events and bring everybody here and notify you about the legislative stuff. It's all volunteer. So if you're the super busy kind, the ones who have no time because you got so many things going on, you're really successful, you're the type that needs to get involved. you're the type that needs to get involved with membership, with leadership, with committee, help out. I know you don't have any time, but that's exactly, you're the type of people that we want to help out. It's those people that are successful, that are doing something in life. So please, please, please get involved with NAIFA. So now, on to today's topic. Super exciting. Economics. I know this is not an eye test here, so I'll read it for you. Anybody been to despair.com? It's an awesome website that's out there. Despair, yeah? Yeah? Some of you guys might know of it. One of the original templates, they take these really pretty graphics and then put a little saying underneath of it. And it's not the motivational kind of posters that you normally see. And one of my favorites was the original one, had a thing of French fries from McDonald's on the cover. There's a picture of French fries. It says, not everybody gets to be an astronaut when they grow up. Really cynical, but it's really kind of funny. So there's lots of others. If you go to the website, you just read through them, and some of them you just die laughing. They're pretty funny. You can buy these, but this one says about economics, and I think this pretty much sums up economics as we all relate to it. The science of explaining tomorrow, why the predictions you made yesterday didn't come true today. Everybody listens to these people on TV and everything like that, and well, what's next year going to be, and where's the economy going, and everything else like that. And one guy says one thing, and another person says something completely different, And then what happens about the stuff in school, right? The things that we learned about in school, economics. I slept through that. Anybody else slept through that stuff? Oh my God, is it boring, right? Snooze fest. If you weren't sleeping, you were trying to figure out how can I stab myself in the eardrum and not kill myself in the middle of this class. Economics, the science that deals with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Yuck, right? Boring. And then they do stuff like this. They pull up one of these guys, this chart, this graph, and you're like, okay, now what does that all mean, right? And I'll read to you probably one of the things that somebody might have said at one point. An economist will tell you, you need to compare the number with where we were a year ago, and given an increase, we've had a decline in job growth due to economic pressures from China, coupled with downward movements from the airline industry and specialization in wind farms outside of North Dakota, and given the relative weakness of the dollar against the Polynesian seashell industry, the economy doesn't look well and needs a good shot of medicine in the arm. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, right? It's just nonsense. And the worst part is that somebody gets on TV like the very next day or like right after the guy or gal and says the complete opposite. And you're like, what's the use of all this stuff? Like, why am I even paying attention to it? It's just boring. So, yes, I understand. Economics, as we normally taught it, as we learned it, it's not the greatest thing in the world. But here's the deal. What's the next one up here? Yesterday I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine. His house got foreclosed on. Yesterday was the day that they auctioned it off. That's a sad day in a person's life. Anybody else know anybody who's had a home foreclosed upon? Client maybe? Anybody lost a job or had a spouse or a friend lose a job? This stuff stinks. It's not fun. And I don't want to see more of this. And I think if they'd stop talking about the boring economics and just teach us some simple things that we might learn from economics, stuff that we could use in everyday life, we wouldn't have this mess. I mean, I truly believe that. 2 years ago, a friend introduced me to this guy, Frederick Bastiat, gave me the book called The Law, which is right here. And he said, read this. And I didn't know what it was, and I read it. And it turned me on to a lot of stuff. This guy lived almost 160 years ago, and some of the things he said in there just opened my eyes. I'd never read it before. It just absolutely blew me away. And it started a journey of education for myself. I've got a degree in finance, right? I've got a CFP. I should know all this stuff, right? But most of the stuff that I learned in finance and being a CFP, it didn't teach me this stuff. It didn't teach me about why the world works the way it works. And so as I learned this, I got excited because I understood it for the first time. And that's what I hope to do today, is to help you understand just some fundamental basic stuff that'll help you in life, not only for your own personal life, but for your clients, and ultimately for where we as a nation are headed. Because this stuff is why we're in the mess we're in. We don't understand the stuff that Frederick Bastiat was talking about. We don't understand it, not at some like high level plane where all the politicians understand it or the people that make the decisions in the large corporations. No, not at that level. I mean just the basics. The really fundamental stuff. We don't understand that. So today I hope to dust off the cover of your economics book a little bit and reveal all the really fascinating, exciting stuff that's there. So if anybody falls asleep, let me know and I'll try to do something. Maybe I'll juggle or something like that. So first question that I have for everybody here today is, where am I from? First person to answer. Where am I from? Wait, who said Fairbanks? Right over here? Okay. Hold on. Here's $1.
That's it?
Well, there's more. Second question. What's the capital of Alaska? Who said that? Who's it? Back there. I should say it's not allowed because you're actually from Alaska and everything like that. I saw somebody do this at a speech once. I said, that's fascinating. He's buying the audience. So, anyways. All right, so Frederick Bastiat. In the Declaration of Independence, we have this little saying there that says, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Anybody heard that? Okay. Does anybody know what it originally said?
Property.
I heard property back there. You are correct. I'm going to read it because this is what originally was thought. Life, liberty, and property do not exist because man has made laws. On the contrary, it was the fact that life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that caused men to make laws in the first place. They changed that word, but originally it's property. And I got a book and $1 for you here. I'm going to come around to give this to you, but that's a crazy thought process, and economics will teach you why. And I'm not going to go into it because it's kind of a lengthy discussion and everything else like that. But if you can understand property, man, it blows you away, all the different intricacies about property and everything else like that. But this is a thought that Bastiat came up with. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was a play on his original thought and some other people's original thought of life, liberty, and property. So here you go. Okay. So I told you I started learning some stuff, and this is what I started to see. Is the more that I got into this, and literally I've listened to over 600 hours of lectures on this stuff in the last 2 years. It's almost like a lecture every single night on economics and economic thought and everything else like that. And I know you're like, oh my God, that sounds like the most boring thing on the planet. But some of these guys and gals out there that are talking about this, they're fascinating, and they make it fun and enjoyable, and they give you insights into stuff that all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and you see behind the curtain. You're like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz seeing behind the curtain. And it's amazing stuff. Like, where does inflation come from? Why is debt really bad? Where does wealth come from? Why do we get into this economic mess we're in today? Why did we get into the economic mess of the boom of the tech bubble and the subsequent bust? Is college everything that it's supposed to be? Like, what's the value of college? Everybody says go to school, get your education. But why? Why is it that we should go to school? And is it really as valuable as everybody says that it is? So all this stuff starts coming out. One thing in my financial planning practice is I originally got into the business thinking retirement was one thing, right? Retirement's X, right? After learning all this stuff in economics study and everything, I think of retirement totally 180 degrees from where I originally thought. I think we're, as a country, being sold a bill of goods on a lot of things. And that's fascinating to me, that I sit there and I go, that's not really how it works, guys. And there's all these differences that I never knew before, and it's because I've been studying all this stuff about economics. So I read everything I could possibly get my hands on today, or my hands on, and listened, and I'm just now still learning. I mean, it's just the beginning. So I encourage you, if nothing else, maybe I've gotten one or two of you to think maybe there's something here to this economic stuff. So let's get into some of the fun little juicy stuff, right? So who wants to be wealthy? Everybody here, right? Okay, why is it so tough to get wealthy? Like, man, it's really tough. Like, unless you're Mark Zuckerberg and, create another Facebook, really? I mean, I don't have that next idea. Man, I wish I was that smart. The dude's worth billions. How do you become wealthy? And that's a great question. We all kind of know it, and we think about money, but ask yourself, where does wealth come from? Like, let's just sort of think about this for a second. Let's do a little, what's known as a thought experiment. So you're Robinson Crusoe. You're on a deserted tropical island out in the South Pacific, and man, it's gorgeous and beautiful, but guess what? You're all by yourself. So how do you get wealthy? You're all by yourself. How do you get wealthy? Well, let's say all day it takes you all day to get 4 coconuts, right? You go out and you're looking and you're hunting and you're finding, and after a whole day of looking, you get 4 coconuts. It takes you 3 coconuts to survive. You need 3 coconuts a day to live. You can get 4, but you only need 3. So what do? Well, you could eat all 4 of them, right? And you could be, man, I'm fat and happy and this is wonderful. Or what could you do? What could you do if you only need 3? What would you do with that remaining coconut? Save it. Exactly. And then what happens after, like the next day, you got 4 coconuts and you only ate 3. You had another one. So now we're up to 2 coconuts. And the third day, you did the same thing. And now we're up to 3 coconuts. And now, on that 4th day, what could you do?
Retire.
Close.
Day off.
Day off. You could take a day off. You go down to the beach and, have a little Mai Tai or so, yeah. Or, instead of taking a day off, you could take that savings, those coconuts, you could take that savings, and you could invest it. And what would you invest 3 coconuts in? In a day off to figure out how to build a coconut stick. With savings, I probably should have blown that up. This guy right here has a big long stick that helps him get lots and lots of coconuts in a day. So that stick right there helps him get all those coconuts down there. Pretty wild, huh? So that's what you did. You invested it. See, the thing is, what people fail to understand, and you hear about all the time on TV, is that in order to get wealthy, and I know this, you're like, man, Adam, that's the revelation. I need to save to get wealthy. But at a fundamental level, I mean, this is really profound. In order for a society, in order for an individual, in order for a people to get wealthy, savings comes first. And it's not a chicken, or what comes first, chicken or egg. It's not that. There is a progression here. And if you don't save, you will not become wealthy. And I know for a while you sit there and go, well, that really does make sense. But it's kind of like, what's gravity like, right? Before you knew how to ride a bicycle, you didn't really understand gravity. But the second that you figured out gravity, it's gravity. You just understood it, right? I can balance. And that's the same thing with something like this, is that wealth, for a society to get wealthier, you have to save. You have to consume less than you are producing and put it away so that you can invest it into capital and things that will make you more productive as a society, and that's how you become wealthy. And we know this intuitively, but we don't really, we don't explain it very well, and we don't really apply it so well in our own lives. And I'll get to some reasons why that occurs. But if you want us to get out of this economic malaise that we're in right now, you got to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to save. Save so that there are resources that we can invest to make ourselves more productive so that we can have a higher standard of living or become wealthier. So when you're sitting around with your client the next time and they go, oh, man, I want to become wealthy. How to become wealthy? You can say, it ain't rocket science, dude. Save. Okay? All right. Some more earth-shattering stuff to come. I know. All right. So the next question is, can you drink a glass of diamonds? Sure you can. It's just going to have a really interesting trip to the bathroom the next day, right? No, it's really the crux behind this question is what's more valuable, water or diamonds? Diamonds are more valuable, water's more valuable. Well, for us to survive, we need water, right? If I don't have water, I'm going to pass away. But why is it that water's not all that expensive, right? And yet diamonds, which I really don't need, my wife says that she needs them, but we don't really, no, she doesn't say that. But diamonds are more valuable on on like a cup of water versus a cup of diamonds. Diamonds are much more valuable. And that gets into some things that are some fancy words like the paradox of value, of like, it's kind of like, you eat your first hamburger at the restaurant and it's really, really tasty. You value that a lot. But the second and third hamburger that they serve you at the same sitting, you have this diminishing returns. That third hamburger, you're like, oh my God, I'm stuffed. I don't need any more. And the same things with water and diamonds. Like if you're standing next to a big river of water, it's not valuable at all. Just plentiful. It's free. It's right there. I mean, you could sell me a bottle of water, but I don't care. I got free stuff right there. It's not worth it. And then but change that scenario around and put that same person in the desert. Like that person's out in the Sahara Desert and they have no water. All they got is this stupid bucket of diamonds. What do they care? It's worthless to them. They want the water. So you flow through all this thought process here and you get to an ultimate thing that says, value is subjective. It's to the individual what's more valuable. So you guys weren't wrong. You were both right. Value, it just depends on the situation that you're in. If you were buying a beer up at the top of the Sears Tower in Chicago, you're going to pay one price. If you're down at the local pub down at the corner, you're going to pay a different price. Value is going to be subjective. You valued the beer up at the top of that, the view, you value that more than the view down there. So all this stuff is just to sort of get you thinking, value is subjective. And it's very important to understand that point, that value is in the eye of the beholder. Okay? Eye of the beholder. All right. So I got like 40 pages up here, and I think I just lost myself in my notes. It's okay, I'll come back quick. All right, so when I was looking around on the internet for pictures. I put in Little Piggy and Market, and some dude's foot popped up on the screen, and I kid you not, he was missing a toe on his foot. And this guy's obviously a humorist because he had tattooed on the top of his foot a little note, and it said, "Gone to market, be back soon, Piggy." I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, that guy's humorous, right? So, anyways, so what's a market? Markets are really important to understand. So we just understood that we understood where savings come from, and then we understood that value is subjective, right? Okay, and so what is a market? Well, I'll show you what a market is. Hey, Frank, can I buy your tie?
Well, sure, Adam.
How much would you like for your tie?
$4,000.
Okay, I don't have $4,000, but would you take $1?
No.
Would you take $2? Nah.
How
How about $10?
No.
How about $100?
Yeah.
So here's $100.
There you go.
There we go. There we go. That's how we roll. That's how we roll. Now, who's here sitting there thinking Adam just got hosed? Well, you might be right, but it's only in hindsight that we actually have that ability to be right. See, markets are this magical, organic, fantastic thing where that value, that subjective valueness, comes into play. So a market is we just exchange something, right? I said, I want your tie. He says, I want your money. We exchange. And originally, this is a thought that some really smart people have gotten confused about. So if you're not really all that clear on this, you might don't feel bad. Because guys like Aristotle didn't quite understand this as well. Aristotle said that an exchange is just when each gets exactly as much as he gives the other person. Exchanges have to be fair, right? You got to have fair dealings, all this other stuff. You have to be fair. But the reality is if what he's saying is things have to be equal. If everything was equal in exchange, why would you do it? Ask yourself, why would you go to the grocery store or why would you go to the baker and buy the baker's bread? And why would the baker sell you his bread if what you were exchanging was equal? It's not. And this is the magical, fantastical, amazing thing about trade and markets, is that it's a win-win scenario always. Always a win-win scenario. Is that the baker wants your money more than his bread, and you want the bread more than the money. So you trade. And wealth is created through trade. It's another way that wealth is created. You still got to save in order to be able to trade anything. But this is another great thing about markets, is that markets, the simple act of trading makes people more makes people's wealth go up. So I traded with Frank here. I wanted his tie, and I was willing to give up my $100. So I valued his tie more than my $100. And he valued my $100 more than the tie. And so we're both better off. We both got what we wanted. And even in scenarios where you don't like the outcomes or anything like that, like your car breaks down and you're like, oh man, I got to go and repair this stupid car. What a terrible thing. Even in those scenarios, it's a win-win situation. You go take the car into the car mechanic and you go like, it's going to cost me $1,000. Oh my God. Here, fix it. They fix it. You walk away. You're not happy about that, but you got what you wanted. You got a fixed car. And the mechanic got what they wanted. They traded their services and expertise for the money. So trade is win-win. And that's a fascinating thing. And it's an amazing thing that just happens organically and doesn't need to occur. And it happens because, again, value is subjective. It's in the eye of the beholder. The person that's holding one thing values it one way, and the other person values it another way. And so trade occurs. But then you may say, no. But those evil speculators, they're ruining our lives. I know they are. I'm just not sure how. But I know they are. And you know why I know they are? It's because this guy tells me they are. and I absolutely love this guy. I think he's one of the best talents that we have on TV. And whether or not you agree with his politics, the guy does an amazing job of getting people to come back and listen to him day in and day out. And I'm one of those people, even though I totally disagree with him on sometimes. But this guy's talking about speculators. So just as FYI, huge amount of respect. This is one of the few shows I watch. But this guy's wrong. He has it stuck, just like a lot of people have it stuck, that there is some right price for ties, right? That there's some right price for oil, that there's some right price for any good or service out there. And though we have history to show us what things have sold for, what markets teach us is that prices are constantly changing, and there is no such thing as an equilibrium price. You heard of that before? Maybe when you were dozing off in one of your classes there. Equilibrium price. It's where your demand and your supply meet, you get that price, right? You get the right price. But this is assuming that the world's static. We're all moving around, changing. Our perspective, our values are changing constantly. So when things change, the prices change. And so, guys remember this? This is one of those. Who knows the name of this movie? Oh my, okay, I got a hand. What's the right price for a thing of frozen orange juice? $1.50. What someone will pay for it? There is no right price. All we have is what it sold for the last time. Similarly, what's the right price for a barrel of oil? We don't know. There is no intrinsic right price for anything. It all depends on the circumstances, the situations at that moment in time. And that time just happened, and then just happened again, and then just happened again, and it just happened again. It's not static. So there is no right price here. And that's amazing. And what's even further amazing is that we don't know what the future is going to hold, so we're speculators. And these guys are speculators. And everyone in this room is speculators. We're speculating that what my goods and services are going to go for, what I'm going to be able to sell them for, is actually going to occur. So Subway goes out and buys all their bread and their sandwich, their fixings to make sandwiches, and they open up the storefront, and they hope that you come in and buy their sandwiches. But is it guaranteed? No. And what price will those sandwiches sell? Is there a guarantee for that? No. And that's amazing, because they do it each and every day, and hopefully they're successful with it. And if they're not, they close their doors. And the same goes true for the oil business, is that they don't know what the price is going to be tomorrow because they don't know what the future is going to hold. They can guess, they can use historical averages and all that other monkey business and everything else like that. But a price is set through a marketplace. It's a laboratory. This is a cool thing about markets, is that without a market, you don't know what anything costs. People say, oh, it's amazing the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. No, 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 no. It's amazing that the Soviet Union was able to survive till 1991. Because they didn't know how to price things, because they didn't have active markets. The only reason they were able to get anywhere close is because they stole the Sears Roebuck catalogs and just looked at what other people were using for prices. But how would you know what something's worth without a market? It can't happen. You have to have markets, and you have to have free exchanges that aren't inhibited by all these other monkeying around businesses in order to get close to a correct price at a given time. But this is crazy. You'll never actually get the correct price, because the second that price happens, what happens next? Somebody else sells something and a new price is set. And it happens, and happens, and happens, and happens. And every one of those little happenings is a clue, a potential, like, oh, aha, that might be the price of it. But it's not a guarantee. And the market is the best thing that we have to tell us, to indicate what that correct price might be. But we never know for sure. And that's the amazing thing about markets. Because again, this is all happening on its own, magically, fantastically. Monopolies are bad. That's what we learned in high school, right? The history classes, robber barons and all that other stuff. And I would agree, monopolies are very bad. Anybody dispute that? No, monopolies are bad. This is what you get with a monopoly. We mentioned the Soviet Union. It was a sweet ride, let me tell you. If you wanted a car, that's what you got. They had a few extra, but it was basically a monopoly. There's only a couple of car manufacturers. What's the incentive to innovate or to come up with new car designs or actually make sure these cars work? None. Because if you didn't like the car, you ain't getting one. That's what a monopoly gives you. But what if you had a marketplace where all these competitors are competing for your dollars and they want to surprise you with innovations and cool designs? You might instead get something like that, right? These are all from the 70s, by the way, guys. This is Farrah's Foxy Vet. You're like, oh, that's pretty nice, but I'm not really a vet kind of guy. I like something a little bit different. You know, like maybe the Judge. I'd like the Judge, right? You get something like that. With markets, with competition, you get all these innovations, you get choices. And that's the amazing, magical thing about markets. And what free trade does is you get lots and lots of different choices. And that's the really cool thing. So think about it. I've got my cell phone. Everybody's got a cell phone in here, right? Like 7, 8 years ago, we didn't have any of these things. And today, bam, I don't have to have this thing connected to a wire at all. I can make a call on the other side of the world. It gives me a clock. It gives me a calendar. I can take photos with it. I can surf the internet. I mean, it's amazing. Why? How did that all occur? It occurred because of a market, because of competition, because people are constantly innovating and changing and everything else like that. So just to clarify here, monopolies are bad. Competition's good. And this is all kind of building up to some stuff here. So, you know, if it doesn't all sink in, don't worry about it. We're moving along here. What's that? We're doing good? Ah, perfect. So, oh, and the other thing, if when that other broker comes in and steals your business, and you're like, that son of a gun, or something else, just remember, they're helping your life be better. They're making you more competitive, more efficient, more effective, and that process is making the industry better, which makes our society better, which is really, really a good thing. Because otherwise, you get that. And I'd rather have that or that. I'd rather have that, not that. It's that. Just clarify, the wife's here, right? All right, so next thing. Does anyone have change for a chicken? Okay, here we go. Who got made fun of? Yeah, Greg up here in the front. Sue Loudon, right? She had that thing in the debates or in one of the conversations. She was talking about how her family would change chickens for medical services, and everybody's like, "Dude, what's up with this lady? She's crazy. You can't exchange a chicken for a doctor's visit, right? Can you imagine that if you could? What the world would be like, right?" Well, so she got made fun of, but here's the crazy part. She's actually kind of onto something. Okay, she's not all that far off. And I'll go through and sort of walk you through another thought experiment to help you better understand what money is. Because that's what she was talking about. She was talking about money. We as a society have completely forgotten and disassociated what money really is. And it's to our detriment. And this is kind of where all this stuff is coming to. The thing is, if we could understand money, the world would be a heck of a lot different. And I personally think a heck of a lot better off if we understand this fundamental concept and go through and understand all the things that are happening with it. Okay? So come along with me for a little journey. Okay. Greg, you're an apple farmer. And David, you're an orange farmer. It's good business, guys. Good business. Okay. Greg, there's no such thing as money. David, there's no such thing as money. Okay? You, as the orange farmer, it's crazy, you love apples. And you, as the apple farmer, you love oranges. What are you going to do?
Trade.
Trade. You're going to barter, right? And so you exchange. This is fantastic. You now have, you're growing the apples, and now you got some oranges to try out every once in a while, and vice versa. You got some oranges or some apples to try out every once in a while. So this is really cool. Okay, but then what happens when David comes down with an allergic reaction to apples and says, I don't want apples anymore. I'm not happy with that anymore. How do you exchange? You still want the oranges, but he doesn't want your apples. So what do? Well, you might go over to Frank, who's, Mahesh. Frank's in the almond business, and we have a banana up here. You go to Mahesh, who's a banana farmer, and you say, Mahesh, can I trade you for some bananas? And why would you do that? Because you found out that David loves bananas. This is awesome, right? So what do? You do the same thing, right? So you go over to Mahesh, you trade him some bananas for some apples, and now you got some bananas, and you go over and trade with David for some oranges. Awesome, right? Everybody's happy. What's the problem? Man, that's a lot of work. I mean, even explaining it took a heck of a lot of time, right? But that's what we're forced to do back, before the invention of money, before it was created. And guess what? Government didn't create this one. What do? You barter. And that's a very complicated and time-consuming thing. And so we started looking for ways to reduce our costs with trade. How do we reduce the cost of doing business? And we discovered that certain things, man, lots of people wanted, right? Like lots of people wanted cows. Problem is, how do you split a cow in half, right? It's not quite the same cow afterwards. Yeah. So cows didn't quite work so well as a medium of exchange, you know? Yeah, everybody wants cows, but they're not really divisible all that much, and then they get old, and you know, it's just not the same thing. And fruit wouldn't work either because it's perishable and everything else like that. So they started looking for things that they could use as a way of trade that everybody would accept. And so they come across things like salt, right? And, oh man, I threw out my notes here. Salt, every Roman soldier at one point was paid a portion of their salaries in salt. And you're like, huh, well, what the heck's that? You know, and it was called, oh heck, I can't even find it. Not even worth it. Salarium or something like that. It's a Latin word. I never spoke Latin or anything like that. So it's, but it meant salt money. And it's where we get the word salary from today. Because it was used as a form of payment. Except what's the problem with salt? You know, it rains. Oh man, there goes my money, right? So we started looking for some durable things, right? But the reason why, let's just go back to the salt. The reason why salt is so valuable as an exchange medium is because everybody needed it. So you would exchange your apples for some salt, and David would accept your salt for some oranges because he could use it, right? You could use it. Everybody could use it. And that's what they were looking for things, is that things that everybody could use. And so eventually we found that metals or precious metals became really great ways of exchange because everybody could use it, right? You could melt it down and put it into some sort of instrument or tool, and it was divisible and it was durable and all these fun things, right? And then we ultimately come across to gold and silver as the means of exchange. Again, why? Because it's durable, it's divisible, all those fun things and everything else like that. But here's the thing. Like, I know that you guys are going, okay, I got you with this, and then okay, that doesn't work, and I got you there, and okay, we're on to this, and then, okay, I got that. Yeah, that's money, right? This is what people don't quite understand, is that money is manufactured. And this is the epiphany that I would love for you just to think about it for a second. Money is manufactured. Money is a good. Just like that chair is, just like that shirt, money is the same thing. It's manufactured. And you're like, okay, whatever. So it's really kind of an interesting thought. Money is manufactured. And money has a supply and demand, and money has the price. So what's the price of money? This is a riddle for you, right?
Not good these days.
What's that?
I said not good.
Well, just think about it, right? Here's the olden days how we got money. Dig it out of the ground, right? You go out there and mine some gold. And this was great because things like inflation wasn't that big of a deal, right? I go mine some gold, that was the gold supply, and everything's hunky-dory. How do you invent more gold? How does more gold come into existence? You can mine it, but my goodness, how difficult is that to get gold out of the ground? It's an expensive process and everything like that. And I haven't figured out how to change lead into gold. So our money supply, when it's a commodity like that, when it's a good, it's very stable. It's very easy there's no real inflation concerns. 1849, a little bit of inflation, massive gold rush out in California, but inflation doesn't happen all that much. Well, fast forward to 1933 and the depths of the Depression with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he had a problem. We were in the midst of an economy, or in an economic slump, and somebody gives him the wise idea, you know what we should do is we need to inflate to get out of this. So he confiscates all the gold. He takes it away. He says you can't do contracts anymore in gold. It's illegal to make contracts in gold. You have to use this stuff. Now it's still, don't worry about it, it's still backed by gold, but you got to use this stuff. And everybody's like, okay. I mean, if they didn't comply, they went to jail. But they said, okay. Well, what's the problem with this? I mean, it's still backed by gold, right? I mean, that's what this guy's saying. It's still backed by gold. It's okay. You know, we're not going to inflate anything. It can't be that much. The problem is that after 1933, even though gold is linked to dollars, like one-to-one, let's say you got a gold bar for a dollar, they're linked, you can't inflate the money supply, is that only is a problem if everybody starts redeeming their gold. But nobody redeemed their gold. They kept using this paper stuff because it was easier. It was easier to carry around and everything like that. And so as a result, the banks, the Federal Reserve, could start printing money out there basically writing extra notes and not have a huge storehouse of gold. And everybody knows what Fort Knox is? Why is Fort Knox around? When I was a kid, I was like, I don't even know why the heck Fort Knox is here. Like, what's this stupid place with all the gold? And I think they had the 007 movie in there where they went in and tried to take out all the gold in Fort Knox and all that stuff. Like, I'm like, okay, why are they doing that? I don't understand. I mean, I guess they're just trying to rob the place. But Fort Knox was a serious deal. It was where we backed up all the gold for the dollar bills. Well, the problem is that they kept printing out more bills and they didn't stockpile more gold. They didn't do a 1-to-1 thing. They'd do like a 2-to-1 or a 10-to-1 or a 100-to-1 deal. And so the money supply is increasing and inflation is happening, right? And 1971 rolls around and France goes, oh my God, they've printed way too many dollar bills. I'm not sure I'm going to get all my gold if I go to redeem it. Like, I don't know if they've got enough gold to give me what the dollars are worth. And so France started doing a run on the bank. They started redeeming those dollars, or those gold for the dollars. And Nixon, seeing a problem, closed the gold window. Just announced it. We're done. We're forever severing our ties with gold as a commodity-backed currency. And since then, he said, trust us. I'm not a crook. Trust us. This is inflation now. Previously, we had that little gold thing up there. It's gone. This is a fiat currency. By decree, fiat. I speak it into existence. It's a trust us type currency. And how do they inflate it today? They just do a, they used to print. We don't print money anymore, guys. They just hit ones and zeros, little digital numbers. And all of a sudden, they're expanding the money supply. And you're like, okay, yeah, I got all that stuff, but it's not quite coalescing for me here, Adam. Here's the deal, is that when in this example, we go from $1 to $2 just instantly overnight. What was the original, what's the dollar worth now? It's worth $1. When we change it to 2, what's it worth? 50 cents. It's half of the value. And do that over and over and over and over again, and that's where inflation comes from, is they're creating out of existence more money. More money means that the existing stuff is worth less. And so that's today what inflation's like. And you all kind of get that in a sense. We all know that there's inflation, right? Okay, well, but come back to me on this one. Remember this point here? Money's manufactured. It's manufactured. It's a good, just like a shirt or a chair. And these guys have a monopoly on the manufacture of money. I don't know if it quite sinks in with that. They have a monopoly on the creation of money. Remember what we said before? Right? We have a monopoly in cars. What do we get? We just get one car, and it's not all that stinky and good, and all these bad things are with it, right? Well, that's what's going on with our money, is that they have a monopoly on it. Because they have a monopoly on it, there's no reason for them to not inflate or to not mess with the interest rates or to not, upgrade their product. But let me ask you a question. What if you had a choice? What if someone else came out and invented a new form of money? What would you do? We'll go to jail. Yeah, my wife is absolutely accurate. It's illegal to do this currently. But what if you could? What if you had a choice? What if Google came out tomorrow and said, you got a choice, people. You can use Federal Reserve notes, dollar bills, which are inflating and they're reducing our value, or you can use Google dollars and be a Googleinaire. I just coined that, so if anybody, trademark, it's mine. But you would have a choice, right? And you would say, well, do I want to take the dollars that are being inflated, or do I want to take the dollars that aren't being inflated? The latter. You would. And guess what would happen? Is that would be the world. You wouldn't have inflation anymore. You wouldn't have to deal with all the craziness that inflation does for us. And that's the crazy, amazing thing that I get after studying all this economic stuff, is that a lot of these issues that we deal with today is not because politicians are doing all these different things, it's because these guys got a monopoly on our money creation. And because this is tied with every single transaction that we do on a daily basis, we have to deal with all this nonsense over the whole thing. We're driving that little Soviet car, okay? We don't have the Porsche, we don't have the Corvette, we've got the little box car that's driving around that breaks down all the time. It's got all these problems with it. And it's again because this is the thing. Money is manufactured. It's a good. Money, the dollar bills right here, are no different than the chicken. It's a good, it's a service, or it's a good, it's a commodity, and it has a price, and it can be manufactured. And then overnight, if we wanted the world to be looking like that with no inflation, just end the Fed. Get rid of that. Or better yet, don't even do that. Because that, people say, oh, you're putting people out of work and, can't do that. So instead, just allow for other people to create their own source of money. And people say, oh, well, then it has to go back to gold. No. It doesn't necessarily have to. There's a guy in Florida. He's in federal prison right now. 2 years ago, he tried to do this. He tried to create his own internet-based money. And they threw him in jail. Why? Because the government doesn't like competition on this stuff. And they knew if we allow for another form of money to come out, everybody's going to run to it. Everybody's going to use it. Because it'll be stable and it won't have all these fluctuations and issues that we have to deal with it on there. So that's the crazy, amazing thing about money and about why I think we just kind of lost sight of what money actually is. It's a good. It can be manufactured just like any other thing out there. And we should allow, as a society, we should allow free market money. Whatever it comes out to. I don't know what it might be. Here's another thing, the problem with it, is that that monopoly that controls your money supply, they also get to control your interest rates. So that's the savings rate down at your local Wells Fargo bank. And if anybody can't see, it's nothing. And if the Federal Reserve didn't mess around with interest rates, you might get something like that, of 5%, right? What would you rather have? Nothing, or 5% on your money, or maybe 10%, or whatever the market would be. In other words, there'd be a price, naturally set price for money, and people would pay you to save. And remember that way back a little bit ago where I said, where does wealth come from? Savings. It comes from savings. So if they stopped monkeying around with the interest rates and actually allowed them to fluctuate to where they were a little bit better for all of us, right? Because that's what would happen. We're savers and we're competing with an infinite bank supply. But if there was a market for it, then we all save a lot more. If we all saved a lot more, we might be better off today. So, pretty cool, huh? Yeah. All right. Now, if I totally lost you guys, you're like, oh my God, I just am waiting for this to be over. I apologize. But there's some things that I took out of all this stuff in this journey along the way that, other than I want you to end the Fed, right? Other than that, which probably is not going to happen. I know how kooky that sounds, right? But just think about that. That world could exist if we wanted to move in that direction. And Ron Paul is really pushing it. It's kind of interesting. Not that he's going to win the president or anything, but just think about it. All right, so lessons that I've learned along the way. That these are applicable things that previously I thought one way and now I really understand because of this economic journey of why these things are so important. Good, get out of debt. We don't need banks to loan us any more money. We don't need credit cards to loan us any more money. We need to save our money. And debt is killing us, and it's killing our clients, it's killing our country, and we need to get out of debt. Because that's not where real wealth comes from. Real wealth comes from savings. If you are going to go into debt, fixed interest rates are worth it. Fixed interest rates are worth it. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but I know with the guys who are running the ship, the Federal Reserve, they're all over the place. And anybody been around 1978, 79, 1980? I was alive, but don't remember much, right? What was interest rates at that time? Scary high, right? What if we had that tomorrow? Would some of your clients be hurt? Could be. I don't know if that's going to occur or not. Maybe it doesn't. But I wouldn't want to be in my client's life if something like that did occur. And I have no control over it. It's not a normal market process that goes up and down. It's these yahoos that are driving the boat. They've got the decision on that, not you and I. Save. Talked about that previously. Buy insurance, right? Like you guys need to be told that. Why? Buy insurance because you aren't sure what the future is going to hold. And you can pretty much save yourself all the issues with the normal stuff in life. You spend less than you earn. You do good deeds, all that other stuff you learn in church or your synagogue or anything like that, and life will be fine. But it's when the bus hits you or the wheels come off the car, all those things, that's when we need to be to have insurance. And what you guys do as a profession is a noble profession. It's wonderful. So encourage your people to buy insurance. Invest wisely. The future isn't guaranteed, and I don't see much reason for us to do the next get rich quick overnight scheme. If it's on TV, you missed the boat. I'm sorry. Okay? This whole comment about gold, it's not about buy gold or anything like that. Okay? Every charlatan out there is trying to sell you to buy gold on TV. I'm pretty sure you missed the boat on this one. Still can have some as your portfolio. It's an asset just like anything else, but it's not the next panacea to your financial freedom. Invest wisely. It's a marketplace. There's no guarantee in any of these things. You may make mistakes over the time, but if you do your homework and take it slow, you should be okay. Life will be all right. And lastly is create. Create something. I don't know what that is. For me, it's Black Raven Films. I wanted to create something. And from that, I'm creating wealth. I'm creating something. It's a fabulous, wonderful process. I'm creating original content for people. And that's really cool. And that's what we need more of. We need people to create and figure out and innovate and do those type of things. And so I encourage you all to, whatever you're passionate about, if it's building an insurance agency, awesome. You're doing God's work out there. If it's, you want to be an actor or you want to be a dentist or, whatever it is, go out there. That's what we all need. We don't need, our politicians to do all these other things. We just need to go out there and create something. We need to create because that's how, we're going to get out of this mess. So hopefully, at the end of all this stuff, you think the same as I do, which is that economics is rad. So thank you. That's my talk.